Public Safety Budget Meeting to order. Today, the first thing on our agenda is a hearing on HB 2270, modifying the distribution of the levy on fire insurance business premiums to the State Fire Marshal Fee Fund, the Emergency Medical Services Operating Fund, and the Fire Service Training Program Fund. Everybody should have a copy of the bill in their folder. And then we'll also have the written testimony. So with that, we'll start with an overview from Chris Wagner. Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Wagner from the
We can't hear you,
office.
Chris. You're on mute still. Maybe.
You can't hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Okay. Say something, Chris.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Chris Wagner from the Revisor's Office. House Bill 2270, as the chairman said, modifies the distribution of the levy on fire insurance business premiums to the Fire Marshal Fee Fund, the Emergency Medical Services Operating Fund, and the Fire Service Training Program Fund. So in current law, in KSA 75-1508, that allows a levy on fire insurance premiums by fire insurance companies doing business in Kansas. They would be possibly required to pay the Commissioner of Insurance a levy equal to certain amounts to maintain the Office of the State Fire Marshal, the Emergency Medical Services Board, and the Fire Service Training Program. Specifically, the levies cannot exceed 0.80% to maintain the Office of the State Fire Marshal, 0.25% to maintain the Emergency Medical Services Board and any related expenses, and 0.2% to maintain the Fire Service Training Program. So a total of 1.25% between those three levies. And then 75-1514, which is the statute we are amending in this bill, kind of distributes those levies into the various accounts of those three entities. So this bill is modeled after a proviso that's been in the budget in recent years to determine how those levies should be distributed rather than how the statute is currently worded. Statute is amended to provide that the state's treasurer should credit 10% of each such deposit, so each levy deposit, to the state general fund, and then those deposits total should not exceed an aggregate amount of $100,000. Then the bill goes on to provide that the remainder of those deposits after that 10% credit should be distributed in certain percentage amounts as follows. And that would be 64% to the State Fire Marshal Fee Fund, 20% to the Emergency Medical Services Operating Fund, and 16% to the Fire Service Training Program Fund. So those percentages kind of correspond to the amount those entities can levy on fire company insurance premiums. And then the bill goes on to further clarify that the amount credited to SGF from those deposits are to reimburse the SGF for accounting, budgeting, and other administrative related expenses on behalf of those three entities. And again, that language is taken from the proviso as well. And then other various strikes and changes you'll see are just really to correspond to the new language and new distribution. So I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee has.
Do we have any questions for Revisor Wagner? Okay, thank you, Chris. On the agenda, we have three proponents. Two are written only. The first proponent is Doug Jorgensen, the State Fire Marshal. Welcome to the committee, Doug.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. Thank you for letting me appear here today and give supportive and informational testimony on HB 2270. This bill came about because in the past, the budget committees have always had to add a last-minute proviso to the budget to cover the 10% SGF transfer with the limit of $100,000. And we visited with the budget director's office and with legislative staff, And they thought it would be better and simpler if we would just put it in the statute so that we didn't have to make sure that proviso was added every year. So basically what this bill does is put that annual proviso in the statute, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for the State Fire Marshal? Representative Delperdang.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for being here. On the 10% that you talked about, is there anything directing those funds over to the State Fire Marshal? Because when I'm reading it, it talks about depositing them or crediting them, but it looks like it's got anything to do with the fire marshal scratched out of there.
The 10% goes to the state general fund.
So it's just in the general fund, and I can use it anywhere I'd normally use a general fund?
Legislature can use it any way they choose.
Okay.
And then the actual percentages on line 17, 19, and 21 are what's left of after the 100,000 is taken out. That's actually the percentages of the remaining money that goes to the three individual agencies.
Can you give us a rough feel of how much we're talking? You know, if not to exceed 100,000, but is it 101,000 or is it 10 million or? Well,
currently, I think I have that here. We receive about over $5 million. That 64% is about 5 million, a little bit over 5 million for us. And then I think it's in the 1.4, 1.5 range for the other two agencies.
So the 100,000 is a fairly small percentage then. Okay. Thank you.
Well, and to clarify, the 100,000 is the fee that the state charges for administrating, for accounting, auditing, budgeting, legal, payroll, personnel, and purchasing. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
The 100,000 is the fee the state charges. It's kind of like an overhead fee. Does that make sense?
No, not in, okay, the state treasurer shall credit 10% of each deposit to the state general fund up to an aggregate amount not to exceed 100,000. That doesn't sound like a fee to me.
Well, it's a fee from this insurance premium fund to the state general fund. It's going to reimburse them for their overhead expenses.
And there are
Go ahead.
There are a lot of agencies that have fee funds that pay that percentage to the SGF every year.
Go ahead.
Representative Weigel.
You kind of just answered my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. But I was going to say that it's like, to use an analogy, it's something like paying an accountant to make sure the books are correct. Would that be like a short answer to that?
Yes. It's for all of the services that the state provides to all the different agencies.
And that's been going on even prior to this coming about, correct?
Yes, this has been done by the proviso for years.
By a proviso, but somebody's actually taking money from out of this fee, this pool of money, to pay for those same services prior to this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
Representative Delperdang.
Okay, and thank you for jumping in. That helps. But I'm looking at the italics in here. So was there previously no maximum amount where it looks like the 100,000 is new? Is that?
No, that was actually said in the proviso. The italics is just that it's new to this particular statute. It's new to 75, 15, 14.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, the way the original, and help me with this, Chris, if I'm wrong, but the way the original statute was written, the whole 100,000 was paid by the state fire marshal, and that's why we did the proviso each year, was so that it could be prorated out by the agencies based upon the percentage of that state fire marshal or that insurance premium that they received. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that was my understanding as well, that maybe the 100,000 wasn't coming from all three of those levies.
By the original statute, yeah. Other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And so everybody understands, the other two individuals that provided written testimony in support of this was Kelly McCoy, with the director of the Kansas Fire and Rescue Training Institute. They pay 16% of this fee. And then by Joseph House, who we've seen before, we have his budget in this committee, which is with the Emergency Medical Services Board, and they pay 20% of this fee. So we've got supporting documentation from the other agencies involved. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Are there any other, is there anybody here that would like to testify as a proponent on this bill? Seeing none. Is there anybody here that would like to testify as an opponent on this bill? Seeing none. Is there anybody that would like to testify as a neutral regarding this bill? Seeing none. Okay. If there's no further questions, nobody else to testify on this, I'll close the hearing on HB 2270. Is there any other business for the committee? All right, so committee, we're not going to meet tomorrow. We're not going to meet Friday. We're not going to meet Monday. If any of you are wanting to attend Senator Estes' funeral, I do have that conflict. He's my senator. But Tuesday, plan to work this bill. So if you have any questions, reach out to someone and get them answered. And then we'll also do recommendations on the Department of Transportation budget. So with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.